and it tends to go up to about 84, which is not good. So I could see the massive gap behind. I thought, you know what?
Championship powered by Sunoco Fuels. We've got round 2 coming up for you very shortly. This grid will be based on their second fastest times from qualifying. Lewis Goff, I should say, claimed the win in the race earlier on today, and it was all rather done and dusted on the first lap. He got a 3-second lead after 1 lap of racing. From there, just controlled the race. We'll go through the other top 3 drivers earlier on in the race, but let's just have a quick look at what the weather's doing at Donington Park. It's still nice blue skies with some cloud, but it's still very breezy indeed. The wind has actually picked up a little bit since race number 1. It's blowing maybe a couple of kilometres per hour harder than it was, and because it's spring, an early spring, it's still chilly out there, 11 degrees, which means that, yes, it does feel rather cold out there. So Lewis Goff claimed the win earlier on in dominant fashion. Second in the race earlier on today, from 7th on the grid, was championship returnee, number 73, which was Harry Bartle. Now, he claimed 3 places on just the first lap of the race, and then picked up 3rd, and then picked up 2nd, and broke the toe on those behind. So it was a good performance from Harry Bartle. And Jesse Phillips, in the number 26 car, came through to finish in 3rd place earlier on. As I say, this grid is formed based on their second fastest times in qualifying, and those top 3 cars from earlier on today are all on the front 2 rows of the grid. Lewis Goff and Harry Bartle are on the front row of the grid, and Jesse Phillips will line up 4th for this one. The other car that's on the second row of the grid is Harrison Mackay. Now, Harrison Mackay, I should say, he had problems 2 consecutive laps where he went off down at the old hairpin, and that dropped him down to 18th on the grid, but he starts in 3rd for this one. And in stark contrast, the driver that started on the front row of the grid in the race earlier on today, Max Murray, just didn't get a half-decent second time in. It wasn't a slow time, but it just wasn't as good as his fastest time. So his second fastest time doesn't see him start on the front row. It will see Max Murray start down in 12th position on this grid, and he finished only just off the podium in the race earlier on today. He was 4th in the race earlier on today, so it's really going to be intriguing to see as to who might have the pace in this one. On second fastest times, Lewis Goff was half a second quicker than anybody else. His second fastest time still kept him in the 1 minute 54 bracket, and he was the only driver on second fastest times that did that. Everybody else was 1:55s and beyond, so we'll have to wait and see when they head out onto circuit, which they're doing now. They're leaving the assembly area to come round and onto the grid, and then once they have lined up on the grid, then they will have a formation out to try and build some temperature into their controlled Pirelli tyres that all of these cars are running. Worth noting, all the drivers, of course, are youngsters, so they're all aged between 14 and 17 years of age. And you look at the list of drivers that have won this championship in the past, the list of alumni or the roll call of champions. Rocco Coronel was the champion last year. Ethan Jeff Hall won it the year before. Freddie Slater, who's doing good things now in single-seaters, won it the year before. Lots of drivers have gone into GTs, which now is where some of them will be setting their sights, particularly now that the Ginetta Junior Championship is under the umbrella of the Stefan Rattel organisation, who organise GT racing globally, not just the British GT. So the likes of Josh Rowledge and Aston Miller, who we've seen in British GT, Adam Smalley, Will Tregurtha, Jack Mitchell, Charlie Robertson, Seb Morris have all been through this programme at some stage. Even Lando Norris was a Ginetta Junior driver at some stage. Tom Ingram, touring car champion. He was the 2010 champion. It's in its 21st year this year. The first ever champion was 2005, where Toby Newton lifted the title. So there on pole position is Lewis Goff, the R Racing car. R Racing did claim their 100th Ginetta Junior win earlier on today. They're the first team that have reached 100 wins, but as I said earlier on, they have been the team to beat in recent years. They claimed their first team's title in 2020. They backed it up with another team title in 2021. Elite Motorsport have got plenty of cars out. They were the team's champions in 2022. And then the last 3 years, 23, 24, 25, R Racing have claimed them all. There's the car that will start on the outside of the front row of the grid, Harry Bartle, who made good progress in the race earlier on today. One of a few drivers returning to the championship. Most are rookies for this year, so they're in their early stages of Ginetta Junior racing. So Harry will be hoping that he can have another good first lap on this one. So they gained 3 places from 7th up to 4th in the race earlier on today. There at the tail end of the grid is Oscar Stockley-King. So he will be lining up right at the rear end of the grid in the Rab Sport machine. The Hyundai electric safety car is at the front, ready to bring them round on the formation lap, and one further tour of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, which is just a shade, and I do mean only just a shade, under 2.5 miles. It's 2.4873 miles to be absolutely precise. So off they go on their formation lap, which means that whilst they're heading around the circuit, we can guide you through the grid and the way that they will line up for this second round of the championship. Another 20-minute race coming up for you. It is going to be Lewis Goff that starts on pole position with Harry Bartle for company. It's Harrison McKay on row number 2 alongside Jesse Phillips. The third row of the grid sees Jacob Ashcroft line up alongside Daniel Oliver, and row number 4 it is Melvin Kalustian who has Riley Cranham for company. As we move on to row number 5, Noah Young is alongside Henry Cameron, and row number 6 sees Devon Hagelin lining up alongside Max Murray. Jorn Helder, who had a spin on the last lap and dropped through the order earlier on, he's on row number 7. He's got Addison Smith for company, and it's Sebastian Leash that has Vladislav Tomancek alongside on row number 8. Row 9 sees Kai Veach line up alongside Bailey Doughty, and then it's Andrew Robinson and Henry Carter that completes row number 10. Row 11, it's Pierce Wade and Ethan Brass, and then as we move on to the next row, which is row number 12, it is Samuel Del Gaudio that has Aniso Mafumalo alongside. Josh Watts is going to be next up. He has got Dominic Darling, a retiree from the race earlier on, for company, and it's Vicky Farfus and Oscar Stockley King that line up at the very tail end of this 28-car grid for the second round of the championship. We've got race 3 coming up for you later on today. That will be based on the results of this race. Will give us the grid for race 3 later on today. So a good result in this one puts you right at the sharp end for the third and final race later on here today at Donington Park, before the teams will pack the cars away, and in only 2 weeks' time, the 25th and 26th of April, they will be at Silverstone, really stretching their legs on the Grand Prix circuit there, where the Ginetta Junior Championship, powered by Sunoco Fuels, will be supporting the opening round of another SRO Championship, the opening round of the British GT Championship. Other circuits they'll visit, Alton Park and the International Circuit. They go up to North Yorkshire Croft, where they'll have 4 races up there. They have another trip over to Zandvoort in mainland Europe in the middle part of July. August will see them down in Norfolk at Snetterton. They come back to Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit in early September, and the last races of the season will be the treble header race meeting at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit on the 26th and 27th of September. So the cars just making their way around the tail end of the formation lap. Lewis Goff in the largely black and grey familiar colours of R Racing, but his has got the purple flashes to it, sitting there on pole position. It will be white and green and light green for the pace performance car of Harry Bartle that will line up alongside. Row 2 of the grid, it's the first of the elite motorsport cars, which are usually always black and yellow, but some purple flashes to it for Harrison McKay. And alongside him is the car of Jesse Phillips, another R Racing car. So again, it's black and grey, but his has got these small orange flashes to it, so you can just about pick out each one of the cars as to whom it is. But it's not always helpful when the teams paint them similar colours, but thankfully they've all put a little bit of coloration on them, so you can largely pick out whom is whom. So it looks as though the grid is formed. Green flag is waved at the back. 20 minutes are on the clock. 5-second board's going to be held aloft. The revs are rising already, and we'll get the red lights coming on, which they do now. And as the red lights flash out, it looks as though it's a good start from Lewis Goff from pole position. Harry Bartle's not slow away either, so he's going to no doubt just move over and cover anybody off. There's somebody on the grass in the background, one of the R Racing cars, but it's going to be Lewis Goff that leads away from Harry Bartle in second position, and third is going to be Harrison McKay that's there in what will be third position. Fourth looks as though it's Jacob Ashcroft that's made it through into fourth position as they start to plunge downhill. I think it was Sebastian Leash that was off at the start on the grass and has recovered, but that will drop him down from what was 15th on the grid. We'll double check that when he comes over at the completion of the first lap of the race. One off, I'm afraid, and into the gravel trap down at the old hairpin, and that's one of the elite motorsport cars that's gone around. We'll work out whom that is shortly, but that was sort of mid-pack in reality, so that might be Vladislav Tomancek possibly that's had the problem. If not, it might be Devon Hagelin, but we'll confirm all of that. Big wiggle from Daniel Oliver as he was under big pressure from Melvin Kalustian as they went round through McLean's corner. Cold tyres still trying to get up to temperature, but for the lead of the race, Harry Bartle applying the pressure to Lewis Goff as they thread their way out of Coppice and down the exhibition straight for the first time. It was Vladislav Tomancek that's off So confirmation of that, because you could see the name on the back of the car, even though you couldn't see the number. And because he is in the gravel trap and it's deemed to be in a dangerous place, the marshals are needing to assist. The safety car is coming out. So unlike race number 1, where Lewis Goff was able to get the break and build a lead instantly, that's not going to be the case this time, because they're all going to be in one great big line behind the safety car. And once the incident is cleared, then we'll be clear to go racing. We went the whole of the first race without incident, really. There was an off down at the old hairpin. It didn't affect the ultimate results, but I think there was just conversations being had in race control with officials as to what happened there. And I think Riley Cranham was deemed to be the man who caused the incident that pitched Josh Watts off and into the gravel, but it didn't affect the ultimate results in the end. So Josh will be hoping for a better run this time through after retirement earlier on, but unfortunately he started way down on 25th on the grid, so he's going to have a bit of work to do to try and thread his way through the order. So the Hyundai safety car ready to scoop up the pack, so they'll all be down to reduced speed. The clock's still continuing to tick, of course, whilst this is going on, so it's time for the drivers just to double check all of the gauges inside the car and make sure that they still weave around and maintain their tyre temperature. I don't think it'll be too long, actually, clearing this incident up, because Vladislav Tomacek's car is already on the back of the JCB telehandler. Whether they're going to drag him further into the gravel and then leave him there, or whether they're going to bring him all the way around the edge of the gravel and deposit him up near Starkey's Bridge, that's for the marshals down at that point in liaison with race control to decide. But it will certainly be one lap behind the safety car. Could be a couple if they decide to deposit the car elsewhere. We'll wait and see. So everybody working their way through. Gainers on the first lap. Well, we saw place gained for Jacob Ashcroft. He is up into 4th at the expense of Jesse Phillips, who dropped to 5th. We saw a place gained for the car of Riley Cranham. He is up into 7th place, and down to 8th goes Melvin Kalushnian. We also saw a place gained for Henry Cameron, and losing out was Noah Young. And one driver that did lose 2 places, so he lost more places than anybody on that lap, I'm afraid, is the number 8 car that lost 2 places, which is going to be Devon Hagelin. The biggest gainer, I think, was going to be Dominic Darling from the back of the grid. So, yeah, the number 47 car gaining 5 places on that lap, and another car that gained 5 places was Josh Watts, who I did say watch out for, because he was running sort of top 10, top 12 before he was pitched into the gravel trap down at the old hairpin in race number 1, and with a lowly grid position he was always going to make some progress, so he's got on with it already. Bearing in mind, 5 place gained, it was only 3/4 of a lap of racing, so that was a good start from him. So the lights should be potentially going out on the safety car any second, because I think the incident has been almost cleared down at the old hairpin. It's usually around about the Fogarty S is where the lights go out. We can see that the errant car of Vladislav Tomacek, the Elite Motorsport car, is behind the barriers, as is the telehandler. So as soon as they've radioed race control and told them that they're clear of the circuit, yep, lights go out on the safety car. Safety car picks up the pace a little bit, and now it's up to Lewis Goff to decide as to when he wants to get going, and what can Harry Bartle and Harrison Mackie do to see whether they can get the jump. There's no overtaking until they reach the start-finish line. And when is Lewis Goff going to decide to go? He's at a snail's pace heading down in towards the Melbourne hairpin. Once he decides to go, he's got to keep his foot on the throttle, but for the moment, nice and slow through the Melbourne hairpin. Is he going to go on the way out? The answer is no. He keeps them at the snail's pace on the way out. A little bit of weaving there, and he's decided to go now. So he applies the throttle. No overtaking until you reach the control line on the start-finish line. So they've just got to hold formation at the moment and try and get a good run coming off Goddard's corner. So the race gets back underway with just under 15 minutes of the scheduled 20 remaining, and they thread their way now to complete lap number 2. Lewis Goff leading the way from Harry Bartle in 2nd place. Harrison Mackie sitting there in 3rd place with the orange car of Jacob Ashcroft right behind him. That's his teammate from Elite Motorsport. And then the next of the cars through will be the car in 5th position, which is going to be the car of Jesse Phillips, who sits there in 6th place. Round through Redgate Corner they'll go. Looks as though Noah Young just ran a little bit wide there beyond the red and white painted curbs. You can do that a couple of times and get away with it, but thereafter time penalties would be heading in your direction, for which we did see a couple in the race earlier on today. Down through the old hairpin now, and you can see just the perfect apexing of the cars, clouting the bollard that's on the inside, the plastic pollard, which briefly folds down and flaps back up again. So sliding the cars around, trying to keep as much momentum as you can in these 100 brake horsepower Ford engine machines. Lewis Goff still leading the way. Harry Bartle is not going to let up on the pressure though. He had a really good run in the race earlier on today when he worked his way from 7th place up into 2nd. Well, now that he's started on the front row of the grid, he would dearly like to see if he could scoop up his win. And we've got problems there up at McLean's, but it should sort itself out. And that is Henry Carter, who is now pointing back round in the right direction. We'll get going, but we'll have dropped down to the very tail end of the field. Top 5 have broken away a little bit from the 6th place car, which is Daniel Oliver. So he's playing catch-up to the lead quintet at the moment as they head down in towards the Melbourne hairpin on lap number 3 this time through. Harry Bartle either not close enough or deciding not to attack. There's a squeal of tyres behind which suggests something's going on, and that's Jesse Phillips, who sneaks up the inside of Jacob Ashcroft and gains a place, running very, very wide there. Heading out of the corner was that Daniel Oliver that was running wide coming out of the Melbourne hairpin. I think it was. And also another car that's looking to try and make good progress is Noah Young, who finished 7th earlier on today. His is the black and the pink car that is sitting there in something like, I think, 8th that will be at the moment. In fact, no, 11th actually, as he comes over the start-finish line, it's saying on our timing screens. So top 3, 4 having broken away. Some good squabbles all the way down through the order. There is Devon Hagelin, who lost a place on the opening lap and has gained a place back on that lap, so he's sort of net zero at the moment in terms of gain. But for Harry Bartle, he's dropping away slightly from the race leader, not by much, by a half a Ginetta length, and the reason being that he's under pressure from Harrison Mackie, who is trying to see whether he can squeeze his way through somewhere. There's nothing doing as yet. Is he going to try anything as they head up towards McLean's this time through? It looks as though he is going to try and sneak up the inside of Harry Bartle. Harry sees him coming, lets him go and think, OK, let's just work together for the moment, because whilst we're squabbling, we've just lost an extra Ginetta length now to the race leader. Let's work together for a bit. There's plenty of time in this race still. And if we work together, 2 cars can tow each other around and they can get back onto the coattails of Lewis Goff. Problem still for Dominic Darling. He was in the pits with retirement earlier on, and there's clearly something wrong with his car again. Hopefully we'll see him back out, otherwise that's a disappointing start to the day for Dominic. In towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. Jacob Ashcroft in close company. Equally as much, Riley Cranham is coming under pressure from Melvin Kalustian in the Red Bull liveried car, who's right behind him. Is Melvin going to try anything? No, and therefore round the outside of those two tries Daniel Oliver. He ran wide, I think, coming last time out of the Melbourne hairpin. He's a little bit wide this time as well. So he needs to be careful again that he doesn't go beyond the circuit limits too many times. You can see himself and Melvin Kalustian are almost touching bodywork with each other as they head in towards Goddard's corner. Kalustian on the outside line. That, if he can hang on to it, he's going to be pushed wide on the exit. They'll give him the inside line for Redgate corner, but he keeps his foot in. But that extra little bit of arc through the corner drops him back behind the car he was trying to take the place away from, so he remains in what will be 8th place this time through. Started the lap in 6th, and the Red Bull machine drops into 8th position. And who's he got behind him? Max Murray, the man who started on the front row of the grid last time through. Into the pits possibly, and damage to one car. That's going to be the number 8 car of Devin Hagelin that's dragging some bodywork round. So that'll be looked at by the officials. And down at the old hairpin, sliding up the inside on the way into the hairpin goes Melvin Kalustian. He's a little bit slower coming out, so he gets a bump draft almost from Daniel Oliver. Daniel Oliver under pressure from Max Murray as well. So this is a great fight for 7th, 8th and 9th positions at this stage. So the front runners up towards Coppice Corner. Melvin Kalustian in his newly acquired 7th place. Moving over just to cover the inside line at Coppice Corner as they work their way through there. Needs to be careful he doesn't get undercut by Daniel Oliver. Daniel Oliver's now come under pressure for a different car, because that's Noah Young that snuck through this time. The number 95 car now inside the top 10 and looking to try and make some further progress. The leading 3 cars have broken away quite substantively from the car that's there in 4th place. But the best of the battles is still for 7th, 8th, 9th and, well, you could argue 10th now as well, because Max Murray is with them. And once we've got Max Murray there, then I don't think it'll be long before Noah Young catches up. In fact, it's not Noah Young, it's going to be Henry Cameron that's behind. So that's a good train of 5 cars now fighting for 7th backwards. And Henry Cameron, by the look of things, if they keep squabbling the way they are, might be past Noah Young by the time they head up towards the braking area for Goddard's. Noah Young is on the inside line in the black and pink car. Is he going to try and sneak back up the inside of Max Murray? Yes, he does. So Max Murray, who started on the front row earlier on, still is just hanging around and hovering around the tail end of the top 10 at the moment. He's in 10th position. Race leader has now built up a 1.1 second advantage. Max Murray back up the inside of Noah Young, takes the place back again instantly, so loses the place at Goddard's, takes it back at Redgate, might lose it again as they head onto the top of Hollywood, and I suspect they might be side by side down through the Craner Curves, these two cars this time. Yeah, they are absolutely leaning on each other as they go down through the Craner Curves. Who's going to have the upper hand when they get into the braking area for the old hairpin? Noah Young will have the inside line. Max Murray is going to let him go, and we'll try and see whether he can get a better exit coming out of the corner. They're both getting caught by Henry Cameron, who finished 15th in the race earlier on today. Back to the leading cars, and second and third still together. Harry Bartle's still asking several questions of Harrison McKee, I should say, who has still hung on to second place. So Harrison McKee, he'll be hoping that he can hang on to that position for the rest of the race. You can see the lead advantage is built as well. So it was 1.1 seconds. First sector of this lap, another 1/10 of a second gain. Second sector, another 4/10 of a second gain. So this is a good lap from Lewis Goff this time through. We've got one off and rejoining in the background, and I'm afraid to say that that is a gravelly moment for Josh Watts, who is dropping down through the order in the Boston Bowl-backed car. Harry Bartle back into second. That was at the exit of Coppice, where he was able to squeeze through and ahead of Harrison Mackie. So Harrison now down into third position, and Harry Bartle will try and see whether he can build on that and try and close that gap, because at the moment about a second gap, that's about the time where you sort of lose the toe of the cars behind. So Harry Bartle wants to try and close that gap a bit so that he can pick up a bit of a toe from Lewis Goff, the race leader, with 5 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. The only change inside the top 10 that time through was Harry Bartle going through and ahead of Harrison Mackie. Everybody else in the top 10 stayed in the same order. Josh Watts, who had the gravelly moment at Coppice, came through, and he will have lost 4 places as a result of that. So he's dropped from 14th down into 18th position. And further down through the order, there was also Vicky Farfus gaining a place, and that is going to be over Samuel Del Gaudio. So down through the old hairpin, bouncing over the curbs goes Max Murray in his pursuit of Noah Young, but Noah Young is more than focused on trying to get past Daniel Oliver's number 12 car this time as they head past Starkey's Bridge and up towards Schwantz Curve. Are we going to see a change of order there? No, we're not. We're going to see off and into the gravel, I'm afraid. And that, I'm afraid, is Noah Young that's off. So not quite see exactly what started it, but you can see he's now spun into the gravel. He's engaged first gear, but you can see the tail end of the car just drop down and lots of stones kicking up. So he's stranded in the gravel there, and that could possibly bring about another safety car. We'll wait and see. For the moment, it's covered by localised yellow flags, so there'll be no overtaking up towards McLean's corner, with 5.5 minutes to go. 6 laps completed, shortly about to be 7 laps completed, and still scores to be settled out on circuit, as this time Jacob Ashcroft is in full attack mode, seeing whether he can close in on Riley Graham. Riley Cranham, I should say. Got to double check that behind him as well that Jesse Phillips is not going to try and pull a move. So they head in towards the braking area at Goddard's. Riley Cranham, from then Jacob Ashcroft, who gets very close to him right through the apex, almost the lightest of touches between the pair of them. They are fighting over 4th, 5th and 6th position. They've certainly dropped Melvin Kalustian now in the Red Bull car, and there's a big moment behind those as well, which I think is number 12 again, Daniel Oliver, who got the tail of the car out as he came out of Goddard's. And that will have cost him a little bit of time now, and is starting to put him under pressure from Max Murray, who's having a go as they head up towards the braking area for Redgate corner this time through. Using all of the curbs and maybe a little bit more on the exit of the corner. Starting to see some black and white warning flags for track limits at this stage, including Melvin Kalustian, who is being forewarned. Another track limit for him and he'll be done and dusted. And we see walking away from his stricken car, I'm afraid. That's where the localised yellow flags will be there. So Noah Young trudges away from his car. Race leaders going through the yellow flag zone at the moment, just easing off the power and all behaving themselves. Looks as though it is just going to be covered by localised yellow flags at this stage. So 4 minutes to try and work out as to whether Harry Bartle might be second or whether Harrison Mackie will be second. Can either of them catch Lewis Goff. Well, at the moment, looking at the amount of daylight between first, second and third, they all look fairly settled. It's fourth backwards. That's the interesting squabble that we have at the moment, because we've still got Riley Cranham under enormous pressure from Jacob Ashcroft, who is quick coming through the Fogarty S's. And as they head down in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin, Riley just covering off the inside line, which means that if Jacob Ashcroft wants to try anything, he's got to brake as late as he can. There's contact between the pair of them. He was trying to sneak through, but Jacob Ashcroft, I'm afraid, with a little bit of contact, turned in, and I'm not sure there's a great deal that Riley Cranham could have done there. So Ashcroft spins, hooks the gear, gets going again, but that is now going to drop him probably to the bottom, or if not, just outside of the top 10 as they head on to what should be their penultimate lap of the race this time through. So 3 minutes to go. It's taking nearly 2 minutes to do a lap. So again running wide coming out of Goddard's is Daniel Oliver. We've seen a couple of times he's done that down at the Melbourne hairpin, a couple of times at Goddard's as well. Black and white warning flag now going out for a further car, which is going to be the number 75 car of Kai Veach, that has now picked up a black and white warning flag for track limits. So he needs to be careful for the rest of the race. One more transgression, it'd be a 5-second penalty for him. He's running 12th at the moment. Next car behind him is only 3 seconds back though, so it would lose him a place in the race. So Lewis Goff has led every lap in this race. He led every lap of the race earlier on today. He has looked class of the field so far. He's 1.5 seconds up the road from Harry Bartle. Last time through, Harry Bartle was about 0.2 of a second quicker, so the lead advantage has now diminished down to just under 1.5 seconds, 1.474 seconds at the start of lap number 9 this time through. Harrison Mackie still sitting there in third place and not really under pressure from the car that sits behind him, so he can just sort of settle in a bit and not worry too much. And that will be Riley Cranham, and then Jesse Phillips will be next up, followed by Melvin Kalustian. The best of the battles now is probably that little bit further back, which is going to be Daniel Oliver, who has got breathing down his neck Max Murray. Max Murray equally as much is trying to attack and defend at the same time. He's got Henry Cameron behind him. So 1.5 minutes to go for what will be the penultimate time through the Melbourne hairpin. There's less than a lap time on the clock, so they'll be going on to their last lap of the race this time through. The fastest lap of the race is with the race leader. 1 minute 45.386 is the fastest lap that we've had so far in this race. And are we going to see traffic coming into play in this one? Because heading down the straight towards Redgate with the bonnet flapping around and therefore not easy for the driver to see out of it was one car, and I think that was Dominic Darling's car that called into the pits earlier on and had the bonnet lifted up by the mechanics, but clearly when they popped it back down again, either the retaining straps weren't there or the gaffer tape has worked its way loose, because that's obscuring driver's view. Daniel Oliver still under this pressure from Max Murray for 7th and 8th positions. And then as they start to head downhill, Henry Cameron is not that far away, followed by Sebastian Leisch at the wheel of the next of the R Racing cars, which is the one with the pink flashes over the A pillar of it. And not far off that is going to be the next car as well, and that I think is the 15 car, is it not, which is Addison Smith. No, his is white and blue. So up towards McLean's corner they go, still with Daniel Oliver, desperate to try and cling on to this place. He's had a busy old race, has Daniel Oliver. He's made a few little small errors where the car's just run wide, but he's not really been picked off by too many, and he's still trying to stick his elbows out as best he can to hang on to 7th position. Finished 5th in the race earlier on today, so 2 reasonable finishes so far, but the pressure is building on him and Max Murray is desperate to try and find his way through. So Daniel protects the inside line going in towards the Fogarty S's. Is that going to compromise his exit speed though? Because now he cuts straight across the S's. That will compromise his exit speed because he shortcut the chicane there, and that's going to allow Max Murray through as they head in towards the Melbourne hairpin. But for the lead of the race, with the clock ticked to 0, up towards the braking area at Goddard's goes Lewis Goff, who has just eased his pace a little bit but has been caught by Harry Bartle on this final lap. The gap that was 1.4 is down to less than a second, and as they come over the start-finish line, it's going to be down to something like half a second as Harry Bartle almost runs out wide, heading towards the checkered flag. But it's 2 out of 2 in 2026 for Lewis Goff, who comes through to claim the win by just 0.6 of a second in the end. And there's problems at Goddard's on the final lap. By the look of things, Henry Cameron ran a little bit wide, and it's going to drop to the tail end of that field that he was doing battle with, so he will come through, even with a 5-second penalty now, which he's picked up in the closing stages of the race, to finish, I think, in 11th position overall. Everybody else just working their way through and over the start-finish line. Josh Watts will come through. There's still scores to be settled as well at the final corner as Pierce Wade is able to sneak his way through. And that means that Vicky Farfus will finish behind in what will be 18th position in the end, and the last few cars just trickling their way over the start-finish line now, including one car that made a small mistake, which I think was Oscar Stockley King coming out of the final corner, and the car sort of speared from the right of the track over to the left, but he did gather up the moment. So Lewis Watts, dominant race win earlier on today, never really was under pressure in that race, but never that far away was either Harry Bartle or Harrison Mackie. But for Lewis Goff, that's 2 out of 2 from him. For Harry Bartle, that's 2 second places so far over the course of today. And for Harrison Mackie, after his problems in race 1, which saw him finish in 18th place, he'll be delighted to come through and finish in 3rd place in the second race of the weekend. So the cars will make their way back in towards the Parc Fermé area. They will be prepped and ready for the race later on today. Remember, the grid for that 3rd and final Ginetta Junior race will be based on the results of this race. So Lewis Goff, subject to official confirmation, the results being finalised, will start from pole for the final race of the day as well. Lewis Goff claims the win, 2 out of 2 from him, and Harry Bartle once more was in 2nd place. It was Harrison Mackie who was there in 3rd place, and Riley Cranham comes through to finish in 4th place. 5th place goes the way of Jesse Phillips, and it was Melvin Kalustian that completed the top 6. 7th place was Max Murray, then it was Daniel Oliver in 8th place. 9th place goes the way of the number 46 car of Jacob Ashcroft, and completing the top 10 was Sebastian Leish. As we head outside of the top 10, in 11th position it was Henry Cameron. Kai Veach finished in 12th place. Then it was the number 15 car that was next up that finished in Smith's hands in 13th place. Watts was 14th. 15th for the car that spun on the final lap earlier on today, which was Helder, and it was Robinson Wade and Farfus that were the top 18. Brass and Carter complete the top 20. Fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 54.836, and there you can see the rest of the runners. Top 23 cars all finishing on the lead lap. The first car that was a lap down was Bailey Doughty, who finished in 24th position. Just one car that really didn't finish, and that was the car that was in the gravel trap down at the old hairpin, which was Vladislav Tomanchek. So that was the race. Let's look back at some of the highlights for the race that we've just seen. So lights go out. Lewis Goff and Harry Bartle match each other for pace at the start, but Lewis Goff is going to be just ahead. In the background of the shot, you can see all over the grass was Sebastian Leish, who lost a couple of places, but Lewis Goff converting pole position to the early race lead. Everybody safely through the first few corners, and Lewis Goff was looking to try and do what he did in race number 1 and build a lead, but all of that disappeared when we saw one car off and into the gravel trap at the old hairpin. Vladislav Tomanchek was out of the race on the spot. There were also problems into the gravel briefly up at McLean's corner for the number 63 car of Henry Carter, but he was able to extract himself out of the gravel without the assistance of the telehandler, so there was no second safety car required for that one. There were further problems for Dominic Darling, who called into the pits in race number 1 and retired, called into the pits in race number 2, but did retake to the circuit. Devon Hagelin had contact. He was dragging bits of bodywork around the track, and then there were further problems up at McLean's corner, where Noah Young ended up in the gravel trap backwards. No safety car required. Race continued. Lewis Goff came through to win 2 out of 2 this weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship. So there we go. The drivers are in Parc Fermé chatting to the teams. They'll prep the cars and get them ready, and we'll bring you race 3 of the season for the Ginetta Junior Championship a little later on this afternoon, around about just before 5 o'clock. Say something like 5 to 5. Until then, we'll see you. Goodbye.